Hey there, creepy peeps, and welcome to another Exhumed movie review, or should I say, a remake versus original. Today we're talking about The Fly. Before I get into anything though, I want to say thank you to my creepy patron peeps for your support of my channel. Thank you so much. If you want to find out the perks to being a creepy patron peep, you can follow that link in the description. Speaking of creepy patron peeps, this video was requested of me by horror addicts who are patrons of mine. They didn't specify which Fly they wanted me to watch, and I didn't ask because I saw the opportunity to do a remake versus original, so. I want to say it's been a long time since I've done one, but I don't think it has, and I can't remember what the last one I did was, but I don't think it was that long ago. So the original, The Fly, was directed by Kurt Newman and came out in 1958 versus the remake of The Fly directed by David Cronenberg, which came out in 1986. Both films are about a brilliant scientist who discovers a way to teleport an object from one location to another, something that could change the world forever. After testing on animals, the scientist eventually tries to teleport himself, but when a housefly goes unnoticed in the teleportation pod, things go horribly wrong. Alright, so let's talk about the original first. So, plot-wise, I love the way this one was set up way more than the remake. I liked the whole idea of, you know, kind of backtracking, so starting with a murder, and all we know is that somebody was murdered. We don't know the circumstances. And then slowly revealing what happened when it's revealed that the wife of the scientist did it, and then why did she do it, and then she goes and tells the story, and then we're back in present day with the people having to deal with this crazy story that they just heard. I like the setup of the plot. I also love the twist at the end of the movie, because obviously after she tells her story, nobody believes her because it sounds batshit crazy. And she crushes her husband to the point where you can't tell that he was part fly, obviously. So I like that kind of twist right at the end when the investigator and brother-in-law, played by Vincent Price, find the fly that Delambre splices himself with. You see that it has the head and the arm of Delambre, and he's caught in a spider's web, and I like that twist. I was not expecting that to happen. I was expecting them to take the wife away because they thought she was crazy, and that, you know, it would end with that like frustrating, ironic ending where it's like, we know that she's telling the truth, and you know. So I thought the special effects, I mean, obviously this movie is a little bit older, so it's at a disadvantage effects wise, I feel like. So I thought the fly with the human head and arm was okay. What I really liked was Delambre, who had the head of a fly and the arm of the fly, and I loved I loved the effect of that. I loved the reveal of that, and that classic just like 50s scream that the wife gives when, you know, it's revealed. But now let's get into the remake. This might be an unpopular opinion. I absolutely fucking hated the way the plot unfolded. I hated it. Well, mostly the beginning. Like literally it opens with Seth and Ronnie talking, and they've clearly already introduced themselves, and we missed that part. So it's like we just come in the middle of their conversation, and then 2 seconds later Ronnie is going back to Seth's apartment, and then 1 more minute later they're, you know, Ronnie's agreeing to film this whole process after she's seen what the teleportation pod can do. And then another minute later, they're having sex, and then 30 seconds later, they're in love. And it's just like, all of this takes place in the span of like 2 days, to the point where like they're in a romance or whatever, and I'm kind of just like, this is moving like way too fast. It moves lightning fast, and I didn't like it. It wasn't convincing to me. So I was not convinced that these characters were in love in that short period of time. Did, however, like the idea more of the fly and Seth being merged together, you know, Brundlefly, as opposed to kind of being cut in half, like in the original, where it's like you still have 2 separate organisms, one being the man with the fly's head and the other being the fly with the man's head. I liked how, you know, it was more of like a merging of the two, so it was just one organism but part fly, part human. And also I thought the slow progression of Brundle into Brundlefly was very, you know, like satisfying movie wise. You know, you see at first he's very excited about it. He thinks he's kind of evolved as a human a bit. He has all these new abilities, and then it slowly just starts to go wrong as the fly part of him starts to take over. Speaking of which, the practical effects on, you know, Brundlefly and all of that were insane. Holy shit, it was so good. It was disgusting and awesome at the same time. And then of course, towards the end of the movie, we have, you know, Brundlefly, who accidentally, well, not accidentally, his plan is thwarted and he gets spliced with the teleportation pod door, pretty much, Brundle pod, if you will. I loved it. I mean, it was just like, how can we take this like crazy special effect of like this man fly and make it even crazier? We're gonna splice him with the teleportation pod. You know what I mean? It brings a whole new meaning to the term pod people. Okay, so comparing the two, I think both films do some things really well and they both have their flaws, at least from my point of view. I did really enjoy the kind of spiritual aspects of the remake, and that being like when Seth has all these newfound abilities, he's very woke, I guess. You know, he's talking about how he's been enlightened and he's evolved and this is like the future of the human race. It's all very kind of like religious and cultish sounding almost, you know, like he's had a spiritual awakening or something. He's woke, you know, he's totally woke. As opposed to the original, which was set in the 50s, or which came out in the 50s, I'm sorry, which came out in the 50s, and the whole scientific aspect is more about just the technological advancements, which makes more sense because, you know, in the 80s, even though they're still, you know, compared to 2018, you know, we think the 80s was like primitive, you know, the 50s were even more so. So it was more about like, oh my God, imagine what this will do for transportation and just the world in general, how this will change the world. In the 80s, you know, at that point, they were more technologically advanced, obviously, than the 50s. So it's less about the technological advancement, more about the wokeness, you know? So I did like that. The mark of a good remake, not just being exactly the same as the original, like changing it a bit, changing the themes a bit to fit a different audience. That being said though, which one did I like better? The tiniest fly hair. I liked the original better. That is a way unpopular opinion. I'm aware of this. I know so many people love Cronenberg's The Fly, and I didn't hate it either. It's just by a hair. I like the original better. I would like, you know, to put the original in pod 1 and put the remake in pod 2, splice them together, have the plot of the original with the special effects and everything and the wokeness of the remake, and put those together, and it would make the perfect movie, I feel like. Given the themes of this movie, I actually wouldn't mind it being remade again for a 2018 audience. Given how technologically advanced we are now, I would be interested to see that reimagined and remade again for this audience. So and I don't say that lightly because usually I'm not a fan of remakes or reboots or anything, but I would be interested to see if it was done well. All right, so in terms of ratings, I don't do like 4 point whatever, so I like, just trust me when I say it's like, if I were to say like 4 point something, it would be like 4.98 out of 5 for the remake and 5 out of 5 for the original, but it's just easier to go with whole numbers. So I'm going with a 5 out of 5 for the original, 4 out of 5 for the remake. The original on IMDb has a 7.1 out of 10. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 95% critic score, a 70% audience score. And on Letterboxd, it has a 3.4 out of 5. Whereas the remake on IMDb has a 7.5 out of 10. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 91% critic score and an 83% audience score. And on Letterboxd, it has a 3.9 out of 5. So I think the internet generally agrees that these movies are pretty close. I was actually really interested to see how close these ratings were actually. I thought Cronenberg's The Fly was way more loved than the original. So I was interested to see how close they were in actual ratings. If you've seen either or both of The Fly, let me know in the comment section down below what you thought about them, and if you've seen both, which one you like better. I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new here and become a Creepy Peep today. I post videos Monday through Friday, and you can ring that notification bell down there to be notified every time one of those videos goes live. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay strange. Bye.